A different school. I was very familiar with the reputation that Miss Beam's school. However, the opportunity to go there did not present itself under the previous week. When I arrived, the only person I could see was a young girl who looked to be about 12 years old. Her eyes were covered with bandages, and a young lady who was approximately 4 years her junior was leading her cautiously between the flower beds. She came to a stop, and it appeared as though she asked him who had arrived. It appeared as though he was explaining who I am to her. After that, they ceased to exist. My assumptions were correct about Miss Beam. She was in her middle years, exuding an air of power, yet she was also polite and considerate. She had the kind of plump body that's apt to be reassuring to a homesick child, and her hair was starting to grow gray. Her hair was also beginning to turn white. I was curious about her teaching approach, which I had heard was very straightforward, so I questioned her about it. Nothing about what is necessary to assist kids in learning how to perform things, such as basic spelling, addition, subtraction, multiplication, and writing. The remaining tasks are completed by reading aloud to them and having engaging conversations with them, during which they are required to remain seated and keep their hands immobile. There aren't any additional lessons to speak about. It's not so much the teaching of thought as it is the teaching of thoughtfulness, which includes being kind to other people and being responsible citizens. Would you mind taking a glance outside for a moment? I went to the window, which looked out onto a sizable garden, as well as a playground in the rear of the building. What do you make of it? It was posed by Miss Beam. I see some exceptionally lovely landscapes, I continued, and a lot of happy children. And they laughed. However, it breaks my heart to see that not all of them appear to be in such good condition and to be so active. As soon as I walked in, I noticed one unfortunate young girl being escorted around the building. She experiences some issues with her eyes from time to time. At this point, I am only able to perceive two more with the same degree of difficulty. A girl using a crutch can be seen observing the activities of the other children. The chuckle came from Miss Beam. Oh no, I caught her. She's not quite that stupid. This is just another boring day for her. Even the others are not oblivious. It's merely the beginning of their day. She laughed once again. So I guess I gave her the impression that I was astonished. This is a very essential component of our whole system. For our children to grasp and comprehend the concept of tragedy, we subject them to their fair share of it. Every child receives one stupid day, one blind day, one lame day, one deaf day, and one damaged day during each academic year. During the blind day, their eyes will be completely bandaged, and they will be held to their word that they will not peek. They go to sleep with the bandage on, and when they wake up, they are blind. This indicates that they need assistance with everything. It's the responsibility of the other youngsters to assist them and guide them as they move about. They all learn a great deal in this manner, both those who are blind and those who assist them. There is no cause for despair in any of this. Miss Beam proceeded further. Everyone is incredibly nice, and there is a competitive element to it. However, by the end of the day, even the most careless child has an understanding of what it is to suffer a setback. Some of the kids have told me that the dumb day is the most challenging, even though the blind day is, of course, the most challenging one. We are unable to apply bandages to the children's mouths, so they will need to rely heavily on their self control. Step into the children's shoes and witness firsthand how they feel about the garden by entering it. Miss Beam escorted me to one of the females who was bandaged. "I have a gentleman here who would like to speak with you," remarked Miss Beam before leaving us. "Don't you ever peep?" I inquired of the young lady. "Oh, no," it was her exclamation. "Doing that would be unethical." But I had no clue being blind was such a terrible condition. There is nothing visible. You are constantly under the impression that something is going to strike you. Simply taking a seat is a huge weight off my shoulders. "Are the people who assist you kindly to you?" I asked. "Fairly. However, they are not paying as close attention as I will when it's my turn to do it. Those who have experienced blindness themselves are the most qualified to assist others. It would be best to avoid looking at it at all costs. If only you would give it a shot." "Shall I escort you some place specific?" I asked. "Oh, absolutely," I heard her say. "Let's get some fresh air and exercise. Only you are allowed to fill me in on the details. When today is finally over, I will feel so relieved. There must be some other terrible days, but they can't possibly compare to this one. I suppose it could be considered amusing to have a leg tied up and to go around on a crutch. Having an arm restrained in this manner adds a level of difficulty, because without assistance you are unable to eat other similar reasons. I don't think it will bother me all that much if I go deaf for a day, at least. Not very much. However, being blind is a terrifying experience. Just the constant concern that I might get wounded is even enough to give me a headache most of the time. Where do we stand right now? When we were at the park, I said, we're currently making our way toward the house. A tall girl is accompanying Miss Beam as she makes her way through the garden. What's the young lady donning? My younger friend asked me in a school that's not like other schools. A cotton skirt in blue and a shirt in pink, she said. I believe it to be Millie. I quote her. What kind of hair does she have? Extremely light, I remarked. Yes, you are looking at Millie. She is in charge of the other girls. There's an elderly gentleman in the garden, tying up flowers, I remarked. Yes, you are looking at Peter. He tends to the garden. He must be in his hundreds at this point. And here we have a young lady with red hair that's curling. She gets around with crutches. That's Anita. She mentioned in a book a unique form of education. And so we walked on. Over time, I realized that I was 10 times more thoughtful than I had ever given myself credit for being able to be. I also realized that if I had to describe people or things to another person, it made me find those things and individuals more interesting. When it was eventually time for me to go, I expressed to Miss Beam how much I regretted having to leave. She exclaimed, "Ah," and continued, "Therefore, there must be something present in my body after all.